This is the Oneodio A6. Oneodio sent me this. I get to keep it, but I don't get to tell them what I'm saying about it. And as you'll see in this video, there are positives and negatives. I both praise and I denigrate it a little bit also. It's a mixed bag, but let's get into it. So fundamentally, this is a relatively inexpensive wireless Bluetooth noise cancelling headphone. What strikes me first as I hold it in my hands is that it's really light. This is so light that I know it's going to be comfortable. Plus, the cushioning is reasonably plush. It's a little bit too pliant maybe for some, but it's very, very nice, very plush. And the foam up here, yeah, that's too pliant. That just goes down too easily, so that's not great. But because this is so light, when I put it on my head, it's awesome. It is so comfortable. It's like having a cloud, a pillow on my head. It's really, really comfortable. It's nicely adjustable, and they fold both inwards and like so, so it's really travel friendly as well. You get button controls on the right ear cup, and you get left and right clearly mentioned in the ear cup, which I absolutely love. Button controls are very simple. You get A and C, you get on and off, and you get volume. You get a USB-C to connect this to a charge, but in an interesting turn of events, you can connect this via USB to a laptop or a phone, and it works in wired mode too. When you do, it automatically turns on. It doesn't turn on Bluetooth, but it turns on noise cancelling and it turns on DSP. So you're getting in wired and wireless mode, you're getting the same sound tuning. So there's nothing for you to do. Just use it in wired mode if you want. We'll talk about sound more in just a second, but before that, let's talk about these controls and let's talk about the app that comes with it. Now, on and off button here, that's also play and pause button, and I like that the on off has a slightly different, it's convex and the other buttons are concave, so with your finger you can kind of differentiate them. That's a nice little touch, Oneodio. I see what you've done there, I appreciate it, and I'm shouting that out. Now, the app will not work if you've got this in wired mode. It'll only work with this in wireless mode because it needs to find it via Bluetooth and then give you the options. So there's that. The app is interesting. It gives you a bunch of interesting features. You get the battery percentage up here, but you also get 5 different noise cancelling modes. Now, this ANC button only lets you cycle through the first 3 of them: ANC on, transparency, and just everything off. Wind noise reduction and wind resistant transparency mode is available through the app only, so that's how you're going to activate that. One other thing of note is that there is no on-head detection, so if you've got this on or off your head, you can't answer calls like that automatically, and you can't play and pause your music. It doesn't change noise cancelling modes, none of that. It doesn't know if it's on your head or not, so there's that. Bit of cost cutting there. Next, you get an equalizer, which we'll talk about in a bit, and you get Find My Headphones, which just basically plays a sound through the headphones so you can find it. That's just a basic version. But there are a couple of interesting things here. For example, you've got the overtime wear reminder, which tells you if you've been wearing it for too long, and you can set how long that is. You got a maximum volume limiter, which is interesting. If you're giving this to someone who needs a volume limiter, then you can restrict that to either 80 or 86 decibels or 92 decibels. There are only 3 settings. You have LDAC support. You don't have LHDC or any other high-res codec, but you do have LDAC, and that's it. The rest of it is interesting because there's also this option of dual device connection and game mode, but both of them are grayed out and they're not selectable. So, man, that's interesting. You buy this and then you get to realize that you don't get all the features. Doesn't have dual device connection, and when you've got this paired with your phone, you can't pull the connection away by just clicking on pair on your laptop, for example. A lot of headphones allow you to do that. This one does not, which is a bit of an inconvenience. You have to disconnect one to connect to the other. Connection's very fast, but still, it's not great. Now, when it comes to the sound, okay, I have managed to measure this, but I would take all my measurements, and in fact any measurements of closed back headphones or even open back headphones, with a pinch of salt, because measurement really changes a lot with respect to, this is my measuring device, don't be freaked out, with respect to how you position the ear, how the fit is, how the seal is, and every time you change it by a little, the measurement changes. So what I do is I try to get the best seal possible and the best fit possible, and then I make a bunch of measurements. Then I redo it by taking the entire apparatus out, reaffixing it. I do this 2-3 times, and then I take an average and then I show you that. So it's the best possible sort of representation I can give you, and still I would say ignore the bass. So you've got bass, mids and highs. Ignore the bass frequencies in this graph, because that is never going to be a proper reproduction for various reasons that is beyond the scope of this video to go into. But what I found just by putting it on my head, just first impressions alone, is that it's actually kind of nice in a way. So the mids are emphasized, but they're a little underemphasized in my opinion. Still, they're there. They're not, overly muddied by the bass, and they're not overtaken by the treble. So a lot of budget Bluetooth, everything, not just headphones, just earphones as well, they increase the treble a lot to give you the sense of detail. This one doesn't do that. There is a nice treble fall off. The treble is there, the detail is not there overall. We'll talk about why in a second, but it's nice. The mid to treble ratio, the relationship between the two, rather nice, non-fatiguing, warm, mellow sound. This is also quite bassy, but not to the point where it's superly overbearing, right? I think this is a good amount of bass to leave a lot of people satisfied. There's a decent amount of mid and sub bass, the deep rumbly stuff. And honestly, I don't have too much of a bone to pick with the default tuning. Now, there is a bit of unevenness across the board in the tuning though, and that also means that this is not a resolution monster. This is not the super resolving, highly detailed, accurate sound. This is just a sound that is not highly detailed, but it has got the tonal balance between bass, mids and highs significantly better than a lot of other headphones, and that alone is worth a reasonable amount. I still think JBL does a better job across the board in most cases, but this is pretty darn good. Now here's the thing. In the app, you get some EQ modes, and the default mode is called pop mode. I would recommend just use this, because when you change to bass or super bass mode, it does this weird thing where it actually sucks out a part of the lower mid, so vocals and everything sounds a little bit thinner, and also the mid bass sounds like the punchy part of the bass sounds less full, and the deep sub bass is therefore more prioritized. This doesn't work. I think it sounds more wonky, and the frequency response also looks really weird, so I would not recommend bass or super bass mode. Pop mode is just the one I would recommend. Now you also get custom, and custom is interesting. It gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bands of EQ to play with, but the bands I think are mislabeled. For example, I thought I would add a little bit of mid emphasis, right? Vocal emphasis, so 3 kilohertz up by a few notches. Doesn't do that. It actually reduces the 3 kilohertz and increases the 4, 5, 6 kilohertz, which increase the sharpness of the vocals but doesn't increase vocal emphasis per se. And the high frequency stuff, it's just no. Messing around with this EQ has not worked out well for me, and it doesn't allow me to make any changes that I want to make, and the remaining changes don't need to be made because this is reasonably well tuned out of the box. So what I would say is that leave it on the default pop EQ mode. What you get is what I said before. Not a very detailed, very accurate sound, but a good tonal balance with a nice, mellow, relaxed sound where vocals are there, they sound organic, they don't sound overly sharp and overemphasized. The treble is not dominating the scene, which is a very welcome change, and the bass is there. It's fun, it's there, that's it. That's all I can say. It's not a bad sound. I have heard so many bad Bluetooth earbud offerings across the board. I'm not talking cheap stuff. I'm talking expensive stuff. Bose & Wilkins PX7S3. Go check out that review. $400 they'll take from you, but it's just treble central. It's just horrible. The Beoplay, Bang & Olufsen's H100, I think the previous generation is what I've heard, $1,500 something dollars. Terrible. Just a bad headphone. So it's not about the price. It's just Bluetooth headphones for some reason across the board are not that great. This one, not so bad. Not so bad. But my problem with this, oh, and we should talk about noise cancelling and the transparency. It exists. It doesn't do, like I've got it on right now. There's a car over there with its engine running, and I'm going to turn active noise cancelling on, right? And it's doing a pretty good job. I can still hear the bird chirping, so the high frequency doesn't go away too much. But the low and the mid, okay, the engine sound has completely gone. And the surrounding general ambient sound is also gone. So in the low and mid frequencies, this does a pretty good job. In the high frequencies, not so much. Yeah, okay, I'm going to take my words back. I was going to say it's okay because of another test I did, but honestly, in this scenario, it's doing pretty well. And for the price, this is pretty good noise cancelling. If you're on an aircraft, which is where I tested this earlier, I took a flight last night. I tested this and it was also quite good, but because it lets a lot of high frequency noise in, I was a little bit annoyed. And aircraft is difficult, to be fair. This, for the money, pretty good noise cancelling. Transparency, okay, not bad, does the job, emphasizes certain frequencies unnecessarily, but pretty good overall. I don't like the fact that you can't switch through all the noise cancelling without going through the app, but I do like the fact that You can use it in wired mode, gives you one extra option. Why not? And the sound is the same in wireless or wired mode. Love that. Don't like the fact that you don't have dual device connection. Don't like the fact that it gives you a game mode but grays it out, so it doesn't allow you. It just, hey, you can be buying something more expensive from us and you get these options. These are not like options that are premium anymore. You get them in this price category across the board. So I think it's a little bit unnecessary. Oh, and there are a couple of gimmicky things like movie sound effect that I didn't even go into because it just makes the sound really weird. Don't use it. And honestly, all the EQ settings are pointless. Just use it in the base EQ mode and you're fine. I think this is a little anemic when it comes to features. I think sound quality could be better. But what I do like is if you get this on sale ever, if you get this on price, or if the price is acceptable to you, you get very comfortable earbuds that have a very decent, respectable level of noise cancelling and that have good, mellow, relaxed sound out of the box without shoving treble and bass in your face. Bass, it's still shoving a little bit in your face, but overall, decent sound. Would I buy this for the money? I would look for options that give me a couple of more features. I like multi-point personally, so I prefer that. I would also look for something where I can get a little bit better sound because I know that JBL can and does do a better job in some cases, and I know that you can get an older generation Sennheiser and Sony for cheaper now. So those are options, but those are all more expensive options. I think Oneodio has done a pretty good job. I think they have some work to do, but I like the fact that it's inoffensive, comfortable, and it's got good noise cancelling. So yeah, Oneodio, I see what you're doing, I appreciate it, and I like the product overall. I just think you could be doing a little bit better. So if you're watching this video, it's a little bit of feedback for you. Now, if you're a member of this channel, you get giveaways, and I am giving this away to one of you. Actually, this person at the bottom of the screen. So if this is you, then message me on Discord and tell me where to send it, and I will send it as soon as I can. I will pay for shipping. Here's the thing, if you're not a member, become. It's $1 a month, maybe $3 a month if you want to support me more, and you get giveaways. Basically what companies send me, I get too many of them just like any YouTuber, and I'd rather just give these to you in exchange for a little bit of support from your side. That's the deal. Okay, I will see you in the next one. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.